Ace Frehley, Rocket Ride. Hi, it's Mike D at downpeppertree.com. Check out my website and my fun shop. So Ace passed away recently. He grew up in the Bronx, kind of a maybe lower middle class upbringing. Kind of got into some gangs, some rough stuff. His life could have gone downhill, but he had a natural talent for music and he leaned into that and put his energy into joining a lot of different bands around New York. And good on him. That's what you should definitely do in life. If you're given just the one talent, take it and grab it. And he was a fun person. Had a lot of personality as well. He joined Kiss in '73. The first three albums were a struggle. They were doing hard rock and glam rock and really touring the country and station wagons and cars and just a very rough life. And that's what you have to do to make it because radio didn't really want to play Kiss too much. They had a hard rock sound, and they were going to have to make it through their concerts and all their special effects with fireworks and bombs going off, smoke bombs, breathing fire, aces smoking guitar. That's what they loved, is putting on a big show. And it was kind of like, hey, this is the circus and everybody come into the tent and let's have a party. So they had much more of a sense of humor and tongue in cheek and a wink than a lot of bands, which almost have no sense of humor as far as their persona and their music. So I definitely jumped into the party. I loved Kiss. By late '75, they weren't sure what to do. So they threw out a big double live album because they knew they had great live energy, and that was it. It exploded. It became a gold record. It sold millions, and to this day, it kind of started this whole genre of double live albums. And Frampton Comes Alive it was massive, and Garth Brooks' double live was massive, and so that's part of the legacy of Kiss as well. What they did next is pretty interesting. They're like, okay, we're gonna do a Sergeant Pepper kind of really creative album called Destroyer. There were all kinds of sound effects and trippy echoes, and they brought in choirs and they did a soft ballad, and they threw the book out the window and did this creative, fantastic record. I felt. And when it came out, it was a slow starter. People were a bit confused by it. Shouted Out Loud was like a top 30 hit, and that was great. That was right up their alley. But one DJ flipped the record to the other side and played this soft ballad called Beth, and it took off. It was a really melodic, beautiful song, one of the first power ballads of metal, and it went right to the top. And that's the record. I remember my sister brought that home, and we played it all the time. And it's really creative, especially the song "Detroit Rock City" about a car accident with a fan, and a really amazing, powerful song that gets played a lot on FM radio. Maybe not a top 40 song, but FM for sure. And then they went on to do Rock and Roll Over, another great album, and Love Gun. And they were just pushing it out and touring a lot. They worked a lot during those peak years of like 75 through 78. They were just at America's favorite band, America's popular, number one group. And radio did play them a lot during that time, like Christine 16 was a big hit song, and Hard Luck Woman, which you might want to listen to that song. It's kind of like country rock, believe it or not. Kiss is always full of surprises. But Ace was kind of in the background during this period. Finally, they did. It was time for Alive 2, and they had one extra side where they wanted to put some new songs. So it was three sides live and a new studio version of five tracks. And he did Rocket Ride, and that also became a hit record. And he had a vocal on it. He did a great job, and it kind of surprised everybody a little bit. And it showed that he was definitely could hold his own and sing and play on a record up front. So in '78, they decided to each do a solo album under the banner of Kiss. So it said like Kiss and then Ace Frehley. And they also did a movie filmed at Magic Mountain called Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. If you want to check that out, I think it's a lot of good fun. It's a popcorn movie, nothing heavy, just science fiction adventure popcorn. And after the movie, they went into the studio. Ace did a really trippy rock album that is a fantastic record. He had the biggest hit single of the four guys. It was called New York Groove. It has this bouncy beat that was just perfect for the times, which was a lot of dance music and disco. It wasn't a disco song, but it was up tempo. And then he had this instrumental track called Fractured Mirror, which is like layers and layers of guitars. And he did a beautiful job on that. And I'd recommend Fractured Mirror to check out that song. It shows, his artistic side and his depth. And so they get back together in '79. They do Dynasty. And he has three songs on the record. They've kind of promoted him up. And definitely listen to Hard Times. That talks a lot about his early years in New York and the struggle. And it's one of the best songs on Dynasty for sure. I like that record a lot. They had a huge hit called I Was Made for Loving You. And that went around the world. That was a massive hit record all around the world. So it helped them globally and with a bigger audience, which they were going to start to need, as you'll see. And then by 1980, they came out with Unmasked, which they kept their makeup on. It was just kind of a play on words with a comic book cover, and they decided to get into pop rock, some lighter music, and I love it. I'm a big fan of pop rock and melodic and harmonies, and they even brought in some keyboards. And Ace gets three songs again. I would listen to Two Sides of the Coin, which is a fantastic song. I think you'll really enjoy that one. And Talk to Me is another great song. And he sings in character, almost like Tom Petty, like he's a character. He's not the best vocalist in the world, but he adopts a point of view and an attitude, and he gets the song across. So, Unmasked, it goes gold in America, but by this point, New Wave is really popular, like bands like Blondie, Talking Heads, and Kiss is moving on to Europe. And Unmasked does really well in Europe, and they tour over there, and then they go to Australia, and it's massively popular. And like this song called Shandy, which is a really softer pop rock song, was like a huge hit in Australia, but not in the United States. But they still had an audience. Like people like me were. They're called the Kiss Army. They're pretty diehard. There's a big group of us that are going to stick with Kiss. They're always going to come back to a good solid record, and we know that. And '81, they did something really weird again. And weird is okay. It was called Music from the Elder. It was a medieval, dark fantasy record about this boy in a forest and going to an island on an adventure. It was like something out of a Narnia book or Lord of the Rings. And I absolutely love it when a band takes a chance like that. And they were sick of kind of the usual rock lyrics, and they wanted to do something on a higher level. and really kind of test themselves. So they went for it and did this record. It's become a cult classic. I like to listen to it late at night and just hear kind of the different sound effects on the record, like different bells and little choir elements. And there's all kinds of things going on with the Elder. Ace had two songs. I would recommend Dark Light. Dark Light is a fantastic song. And he was, having fights with the band at this point. Peter Criss has left, and they were outvoting him 2-1. And but he was hanging in there, and then by '82, um, he was still in the band and doing TV appearances for their album Creatures of the Night. But by then, they had brought in other guitarists to do some of the solos and stuff. So '82 is a pretty strange year. You can see him in Europe doing these videos and doing promotional videos, and yet he's kind of on his way out of the band. So then he takes off a couple years, and I guess he takes off the makeup. I never saw a picture during that time. So nobody officially showed Ace without makeup, like in '84, '85, and all that. I think he was just resting. He was really tired and burnt out. And then in '87, he comes back with Frehley's Comet, and that's a fantastic record. His single was called Into the Night. It's about homeless people in San Francisco. It's a pretty edgy video. Definitely, it's filmed on location in San Francisco, and definitely check out a rock song with a social issue. And he does a great vocal on that. So then he does a couple more solo albums. He has a song called Do Ya, which is a remake of like an ELO Move song called Do Ya. And that was on MTV a lot, I remember. And I definitely hope you enjoy that remake of Do Ya. And then, he tours a lot on a smaller level, but he's happy to have his independence. But by like '94, there's a lot of demand for Kiss, a reunion. And MTV's doing all these acoustic, unplugged records. I'm sorry, videos. And they do a TV special called Kiss Unplugged, and you can buy that record. I really like it when they just sit down and get back to basics. And he does 2000 Man on that song, on that album. And that is a fantastic song. He really electrifies the room, and everybody gets really excited, and it all comes alive in that moment on that song. And so there's a huge cry for a reunion to go do concerts. And I remember they sold out Tiger Stadium in Detroit in like an hour, like this giant stadium. And then for the next 5 or 6 years, they toured the world. I saw them like around 2000. Fantastic show. They did all their big hits. They had a big catalog, and they were all totally professional. I really enjoyed it. They put on, you get a lot for your money. It's a big show. And they had an album called Psycho Circus of new material. And if you listen to Ace's song again, he has a great song again called Into the Void. And definitely recommend that one. And also listen to We Are One, which is acoustic. It's kind of got some real good harmonies and melodies. Listen to We Are One. But the big hit record was Psycho Circus, and that was um, really popular in like FM rock radio. I remember at the time. It's a really good hard rock song. And then in like 2002, he kind of says, "Okay, thank you very much. I'm done. I'm ready to leave the band." And they wanted to just keep going. And he's like, "Well, we did our goodbye tour. Goodbye. Thank you." So he leaves, and he spends the rest of his life doing some solo albums. I do recommend one called Anomaly, like years later, and a song called A Little Below the Angels. It's a beautiful acoustic kind of a soft rock song that you're going to really be surprised when you hear that. So I'll leave you with that. He just kept touring right till the end of his life. He was out on the road, and he did clean up, is my understanding, from drugs and alcohol, and was a real success. You know, the hero's journey is you got to kind of dig within yourself and bring out the best person you can be. And he was able to overcome addiction and do that. So he left behind a great body of work. Check out definitely the Ace Frehley solo album from '78. If you're going to buy like one thing, buy the '78 solo and then buy Destroyer, that album, and Unmasked. I like Unmasked a lot. I think it's got a lot of good harmonies and a great song called Tomorrow, which is almost new wave. I think they did a great job around that time. So that's it. Please like and subscribe. Financial Angels, I'm going to include my Venmo so you can help me out with this. YouTube gave me an award the other day of 5,000 views, and I'm really asking for a little financial support as well to help me with all of these endeavors. And I'm Mike D at downpeppertreelane.com. Thank you. Bye bye.